thank you for coming to the Be the One podcast and joining us this week. We're so excited, especially this week. I know you've got camp going on this week for football, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to.
Yeah, it's a big week. It's an exciting week, and it's a kind of a week that the intensity gets turned up, and you get a scrimmage next week. So we've basically got about 14 days before we get back on the grass in front of people.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. And as a mother of one of your players, he is having a blast. He's loving it. I just talked to him, and he's like, "No, I'm really, really spent for the day." And so I'm like, "As you should be." But so we want to introduce you to our listeners. So you have been all over the state of Georgia, Peach County, Hart County, Valdosta, one of the winningest football programs in American history, which is just crazy.
Yeah,
and then now you're in Georgia Southern. So you have been a college coach, a high school coach, and now you're here at Brookstone. So we're thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you.
But tell us now that I gave the little cliff notes, but share with us some of your story.
So I grew up in Northeast Georgia, and in Rabun County in the Northeast Georgia mountains, and
beautiful.
My dad and his twin brother were football players, and ever since I was old enough to know what it meant, I was in love with the game, and just always have been. And I remember, I tell this story often, and I remember being a little kid and walking into my grandmother's house, and my uncle happened to be an All-American, and you see the All-American portraits. Well, the parents get a copy of those, I guess, at some point. And she had all the boys' trophies together, and that All-American portrait used to kind of be the centerpiece. And I remember that used to be kind of the first thing I did is when I went to my grandmother's house was walk in and just look at that. And growing up, kind of as a goal, that where you wanting to be, and I played high school football and loved it, and made the biggest thing is making the lifelong friends that you make and the brotherhoods that come from the game, and then I went into college and everything changed, and was at that young and immature age of being driven by maybe some things I shouldn't have been driven by, and just thinking about material things, and but thank God he spoke to me and said, don't chase something just because of money. You need to chase a passion. And what I really enjoyed was ball, and it's always been more than just the ball itself. It's the people, it's the relationships, it's the things that you have in common with a group of people, and the competitiveness has always been a big part of it for me too. And still not the most mature thing, but grew up enough to at least chase a passion, and just very fortunate that God placed me in a profession where I could mature and realize that life is really about helping others and pouring into somebody else. And that's what coaching is. That's what education is, and coaching is just another branch of it. So really blessed to experience all that. I ended up walking on and playing at the University of Georgia. It was a true blessing. Made a lot of good friends there, and then left or graduated and went and GA'd at Gardner-Webb, and was literally living in the field house. And my wife tells this different now, but the truth is I was ready to get married, and my wife was like, "I'm not getting married until you can buy a washer and dryer." So we didn't stay at Gardner-Webb very long. So I was blessed to leave Gardner-Webb and start my career in Thomasville, Georgia, with a guy named George Bobo, who I still have crazy amount of respect for. But the whole interview process of leaving there and going was where a lot of the relationships that lasted me throughout my career really start. I also interviewed with a guy named Sonny Smart, who was the head coach at Bainbridge, who had a son that was a junior. George's son was a senior, and so made those relationships, those connections, and my career started from there. But I spent a couple of years in Thomasville, went to Coffee County, was running back coach at Coffee County, And then for a guy named Charles Winslet, another Hall of Fame football coach, and then to Peach County with a guy named Rodney Walker, and another Hall of Fame football coach. So very, very fortunate to be influenced by guys that were incredible, incredible coaches. And then at 29 years old, I had it all figured out myself.
Of course.
Decided that I was ready to be a head coach, and how I survived that, I don't know. But I went, in 2 years, I had an amazing record of 5-15. And somehow, the people at Peach County wanted me back as the head coach with an outstanding record of 5-15. It was just amazing how God blessed me, and
Yes.
what a great group of people that supported me and were able to get past the fact that it wasn't about the record. And
Right.
And then we were blessed with a really good run of athletes, and really good players, and I started to mature as a coach, and we kind of flipped things around and won a couple of state championships there in a 6-year run. And
I mean, that's awesome.
it was a great experience. It really was. And then wanted to give college a go, and got the chance to go with Chris Hatcher to Georgia Southern, and was the offensive coordinator there for a couple of years. Really good experience there. Unfortunately, we didn't win enough games, and when you don't, they go in a different direction. And so when they let Coach go, we all were looking for something. And again, I was kind of landed in a great situation at Valdosta as the head coach. And like you said, it's the winningest football program in the country. And they're really, really proud of football there. It is a centerpiece in that community. And there's so many horror stories out there of being the head coach at Valdosta, and how hard it is, and the Friday Night Lights image that you get, and people driving up and saying, "Hey, if you don't win, this you'll be gone," and all that stuff. There's a lot of pressure there to win. There's a tremendous amount. But my experience there was so amazing. It really was. When we came in, the program was not in great shape, and they had lost to Lowndes, the crosstown rival, for 8 years in a row, I think. And they were talking about school consolidation. And my first year there, we got really close to threw it in the end zone. Last play, we didn't get it. They won. Second year, we drove across town and got them, and that was right there with winning one of those state championships.
I bet.
Especially after a drought like that.
Right.
And it happened to be on ESPN. Couldn't be better. It was a great night, and we did that, and then I got an opportunity to go back to Georgia Southern. Probably not a good decision on my part. Probably went for a lot of the wrong reasons, but did, and then ended up at Hart for our last stop, and kind of was ready to call it a day and retire to the lake, and then I got a call. And my wife and I decided to drive over to Columbus and talk to a great group of people. And when we walked out, it just felt right. And we were like, I think if they offer, this is what we ought to do. And probably 5 minutes later, we got a phone call. And now I'm at Brookstone.
It didn't take long.
So it was. That's a long story, but I've been blessed to be in a lot of good places, be with a lot of good people, and to do it all in the state of Georgia. And I'm really proud of that.
Well, it's a great story, and you just never know where the journey leads you, and so much of it does go back to relationships and to what doors open and things like that. But we're thrilled to have you here at Brookstone. You have quite the record, honestly, and so and I have, again, going back to having a son on your team. How much he loves it and how much his friends love it, and just the enthusiasm of being a part of something like this. It's bigger than football, and it's just so it's just been a real privilege to have him a part of it the past 2 years.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's I coach a lot like I played. And I was not a great player. I overcame a lot in the way of size, speed, and athleticism just because of heart speed. And I try to coach the same way. So it's high energy. Sometimes it's almost chaos, but that's the way I'm wired, and a lot of the competitiveness, that I enjoy comes out. It's like I told our kids this morning. I was like, you've got to be competitive every day, because whether you realize it or not, you're lining up and you're playing Glenwood, which is our first game. You played them this morning, and you either won or you lost. So to be mature enough to realize that, and there's not a guy out there that can honestly sit there and say that he's loved every bit of training that he's ever done. I mean, it becomes sometimes mundane, it becomes boring, it becomes hard, it becomes hot, and it becomes tired. But it's the discipline and the ability to get through those that make good football teams and also make pretty good humans too.
Right. So. I totally agree. Well, one of the, so I didn't mention this, but you have had a book written about you, which is pretty cool, about your time at Valdosta. And one of the quotes, so this is called Must Win. I'll put it in the show notes. Must Win by Drew Jubera. Is that how you pronounce it?
Drew Jubera.
Yeah. But I loved this quote describing what a football coach is. And I just thought that's really so accurate. And I mean, it could be a teacher as well, but it says equal parts air traffic controller, counselor, disciplinarian, babysitter, shrink, administrator, good cop, bad cop, and when time allowed, a football coach. And so is that a pretty accurate description?
I would say yes. Everybody's asked a lot, and I don't know that this is really right on cue, but to compare high school to college, being at both. And when you get to the grass, they are the same. And they are exactly a lot the same, depending on how much you do schematically and those things. But once you get on the field, coaching football is coaching football. A lot of the fundamentals are the same. A lot of the schemes are the same. Where the game is so different is the off season with the recruiting or with the school day, but also with dealing with the different age groups. And so I think the relationships, the maintaining the personalities, the team building, all of that, building the culture, all of those things are really what you spend a tremendous amount of time doing, and it's leadership.
That's exactly what it is. Leadership on and off the field, for sure. So the book also mentions, and I think I've heard you speak to this before when you're talking about developing the young men, developing the young athletes in front of you, but that 3 pillars that you often base your football program on, character, academics, and football. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important for our kids and our parents and to understand what we're really about. And what I want to be about, what our program wants to be about is kind of our mission statement is, or how we get to our mission, which is to be the premier football program in the state of Georgia, and a model of excellence for others to emulate. The things that I feel like that we have to do in order to get there, or we have to have good character on our football team, and I'll speak to that a little bit more. Obviously, we want to be high academics, okay? And to be quite honest, our academic view is different here than it would be at a Valdosta. We've got a lot of pride in the things that we accomplish academically, and it's very important to our kids and to our parents. And then third is football. And so really, what I'm saying is if we can put a group of 50 or 60 kids together that have the ability to make good choices consistently, that's a great place to start. That's the character. Okay, you come to Brookstone for the education, okay? So it's going to be important, all right? And then third, okay, you've got to have some kind of level of commitment to the football. And so what everybody hears me say is, Coach said, it's character first, okay? Character is the most important, and then academics is second, and then football's third. And that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this: if you're missing any of the 3, then, and I've described it often as a wheel and 3 pieces of pie, and if you're missing any of the 3, your wheel won't roll.
How about that? Yeah.
And because I would love to sit here and say, hey, if we have good boys that make good decisions, that are good students, then the football will take care of itself. And that's rose-colored glasses. That's
Right.
simply not true.
Right.
They have to be good football players too, and there
Right.
has to be a commitment to that. However, you could have really good football players that are really good students that there's some character pieces missing, and you're going
Right.
to get beat on 4th and 1 or on the goal line or something.
Right.
Somebody's going to do something undisciplined.
Right.
You know, those types of things. So, and certainly the academic piece, if you can't balance it, then you probably shouldn't be there to begin with, if you can't balance the academics. So
Right. Right.
what I am saying is there's 3 equal parts that have to be lived out to its fullest
Right.
for our program to be where we want to be. And again, that's
Right.
another great life skill
Yeah,
of having to
absolutely.
balance 3 things together instead of just all focused on one.
Right. Right. I totally agree. So last year was your first football season, full season here at Brookstone.
Right.
And it was a great one. I mean, it was a great one. And I don't know the record, which I'm sad to say, but like I
We're
feel
8-4.
8-4.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was such a great season, and we made it to the semifinals,
Yes.
which I don't think we've done that since 1987. I
Correct.
think
That's correct.
So, and I was in high school at the time here, and so to have that experience, it was just so exciting. It was so exciting.
It was, and probably a tackle or 2 tackles away from competing for a state championship,
Yeah.
and what a great accomplishment that would have been. But the things that we did accomplish, really proud of that, and those 4 losses were tough football games to good football teams, and really proud of the amount of ground that we were able to cover
Right.
in 1 year,
Right.
and a lot of that, well, all of that really is attributed to the kids, because anytime you make a change in anything that you do, so many times it's about changing the culture.
Right.
And these kids were really easy and really hungry for some cultural changes. And, and so there was immediate buy-in. And so many times you have, kids that want to dip their toe in the water and take the attitude of, let's kind of see what this guy's like before we decide if we're going to go all in and do what he actually says.
Right.
And but we had great buy-in from first day forward,
Right,
and
right.
so that really made things a lot quicker.
Right.
And we played some good football.
Yeah,
We got some
for
good football
sure.
players.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, we do, and we did, and we had a great senior class last year. I think we have a great senior class this year, so I
Yeah.
feel like you've got good leadership in place.
We do.
So what do we have to look forward to this season?
So we lost a lot of offense, okay, with a couple of graduations. Of course, Walter Blanchard put up great numbers for us last year. We lost our quarterback, and so we lost one of the running backs. Dimitri graduated this past year, so replacing those. But we're really excited about the guys that have stepped in and done those things. Brooks Roney stepped up and will be our starting quarterback, and he's had a great off season and has really worked hard. Lane Cannon is back from last year and had a great season last year. He was able to stay healthy throughout the year, and I think that's been a challenge for him in the past, but he was able to accomplish that last year, and he's bigger and stronger and faster at this point than he was last year. He's
That's
a lot
great.
more comfortable in what he's doing. So, we've got some receivers back, and Maxwell Jones is returning.
Great.
Swift Branch has stepped up and is playing the Z for us, is having had a good off season, and Jakeith Talbert is there as well. So we've got and we've got a little bit of depth at receiver behind those guys. Chris Vickerson, we're looking for great things out of him, stepping into the tight end spot. So. And then defensively, we lost some depth on that side as well. Dylan Thornton's signing with the Air Force, and that's
excited for him.
Those guys don't just grow on trees,
know.
It's like you
I
wish you could
know.
have. Hey, I wish I had a guy that's signing with Georgia and a guy that's signing with the Air Force on our team every year.
Yes, I know.
But you don't,
Yes.
and guys have to step into those roles and grow. And really proud of the way they have. Jackson James has done a great job on that defensive side, bringing. we've put a lot on him. He's kind of the quarterback as he's playing linebacker, and so he's doing a great job with that. And a lot of our kids defensively are growing. We're running an entirely new scheme, probably doing a little bit more than what they were used to doing, and so but they've done a good job owning it and growing in it.
Good.
So
well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we had at least 3 people go on to play college last year.
Yeah.
So that's real exciting. So one thing I love about athletics in general is the impact a coach can have on a player. The relationships, like you were talking about earlier. So getting back to broader view of football. Speak to that a little bit, like some of the relationships that have meant so much to you through the years.
Yeah, so I think there's specific people that kind of jump out at you, and you can see where football's made a difference in a life.
Right.
But then there's the day-to-day of football, of young men understanding that it's okay to hold each other accountable for something, and to learn leadership skills from a standpoint in this is our culture, this is our standard, this is what we accept, and being able to administer that to a group, and so, typically that's going to be your senior class. And, so when that senior class goes, the next senior class comes in and has to transition that. And it's always fun to watch those kids grow in that aspect. But also, just a day-to-day toughness of what the game demands. It's different. There's not another game like it, in so many respects. It's the only game that's complicated enough that they allow you to take a 30-second break to make sure that everybody's on the same page for the next play.
I know.
All the other ones are constantly moving, so it's complex, it's demanding, it's physical. There's so many things that are different about it. It's the ultimate team sport. One of the things that we've been trying to drive home with our kids the last couple of weeks as we start practice is it's not just about the first team. The thing that drives the pace of your football team are your young kids who are trying to give the older kids a look. And so if they're not paying attention and they're not going, then your first team kids get 7 reps instead of 15 reps. And so you're teaching community, you're teaching service, you're teaching brotherhood, you're teaching doing for one another, because I'm not going to be the guy on the field on Friday night getting my name called on. And so there's so many little life lessons that are taught throughout the game itself. And then you get into the individual stuff of what it did for a guy like Malcolm Mitchell, or what it did for a guy named like Todd Bradley, or some of these individuals that or Darius Dewberry, that is some individuals that I've been so blessed with to be a part of their story.
Well, and we were able to have Malcolm come and visit us last year, and that's just, again, goes back to the
incredible
relationship you had with him and the impact you had on him. And then to see what he's doing now. It's just awesome.
He's the only individual that I know that gets motivated by not being able to do something. Most of us are like, if I can't do it, then I'm going to have enough discipline to get it done, or I'm going to procrastinate, or I'm just going to ignore it and go do something else. It drives him to a whole different level, awesome. To conquer it, and that's why he's successful.
Wow, that's exciting. Okay, so speaking about the younger guys, so what, your varsity JV coach, but like, what's your vision for like middle school football and even younger here at Brookstone?
So we've kind of changed that structure. So we have been a 5th and 6th grade team and a 7th and 8th grade team, and it's really hard when some of the classes you only have a dozen boys in the class. So football is a game of numbers. You'd like to, run that number to 40, even on a middle school team, just because in order to practice, you've got to have 22 kids out at the same time in order to have a full practice, and 22 is not enough. You need numbers. So we've kind of restructured that, and we put our 6th graders in with our 7th and 8th graders.
Okay.
Really excited about that. And then to give our younger kids an option all the way down, we have a 10U Pop Warner team that is housed here. It's not
that's
a
awesome.
Brookstone team, okay, but all of our Brookstone kids are playing on it, and we've got, it's housed here. And then we also have an 8U team that is housed right here.
That's awesome.
And,
now, is this the Georgia Cougars?
That's the Georgia
Okay.
Cougars.
All right,
yeah.
the Georgia
So
Cougars. All right,
we
there you
are
go.
really, really excited about this model and think that it's going to certainly pay benefits. And we've got a really good group of guys kind of heading that up, and really excited where that's headed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, so segueing from football, if you will, to you're also our athletic director.
Sure.
So, you know, in addition to football, we had a really great athletic year last year.
did.
And I know I was just, I checked with Cindy to make sure I was right, but we had state championships in swimming and in girls track and field. And that included a whole slew of individual state champs
That's
there.
right.
That was a powerhouse team. But we were runners up in basketball, girls basketball. I didn't even know this, and so forgive me for not knowing bass fishing. We were the runners up in the state, and then girls volleyball, boys football, and boys and girls tennis all made it at the Final Four.
Final Four.
So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's unreal. We had a great year. We had a great year.
We really did. So what's your vision overall for Brookstone athletics? That's a very broad question, but like going forward, now that you've got a year under your belt.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be a shared vision amongst all of us. And so we'll have a coaches meeting here in a couple of weeks to start the school year, and that vision will be exactly what I told you it was for football. It's just it's the same for all athletics, and that's we want to be the best. Okay, we want to do it the right way.
Right.
We're a model of excellence for everybody else. Okay, and then we want to teach life skills that carry. So, it's not just about, a lot of people will say, well, athletics is just about teaching life. It is, okay, but at some point it is competitive.
Right.
There's a scoreboard on.
Right.
And I think if we teach our kids that it's okay, that we're sending a bad message.
Right.
Okay, if there's a
Right.
scoreboard on, our goal should be to win.
Right.
And that's, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's okay
I think
too,
it's
yeah.
it's a lesson, and so certainly we want to win. Okay, we want to be the best, but we want to do that the right way, and we want to make sure that we don't put the life skills that are coming out of athletics on the back burner.
Right.
So, and I think we're doing that.
Yeah.
I think we're doing a great job. I think we've got a lot of really good people in our department. I mentioned our swim team. Karen did a great job with those girls this year, jumping in there, and and then Rusty with track, and all the people that pitched in both of those sports. And they're certainly not the only ones.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
certainly congratulations to those two groups.
Certainly,
especially.
for sure. And at a smaller school, people are wearing so many different hats. So you're teaching, you're coaching, so we do need all hands on deck to make a lot of this happen.
It's the biggest challenge we have, because you think about it. We have every sport that every other school would have, and so instead of a 6A school and wherever having 140 teaching slots to fill 55, 60 coaching slots, we have 55, 60 teaching slots to fill 55. So it's like, what do you coach, Avery?
Exactly, I know. It's like almost a requirement. Like, what are your extracurricular activities that you can take a part in here?
That's the most challenging part of our job.
For sure. So. Well, speaking of coaches, I know you have a couple of new football coaches that just brought so much energy to the team. So tell me about your new football hires.
So we hired Chris Munoz to kind of fill a bunch of different roles. He'll be an assistant athletic director, and he'll kind of head up the fields, and he'll make sure that all of those are reported to me. And he's done a great job with that. Chris is a guy that really wants to please you. Then he'll also be the head of the weight room. I know a lot of people kind of question about how exactly we do the weight room and all that stuff. And the way I like to describe it is Chris is kind of in charge of curriculum.
Okay.
So he designs the workouts for the kids, all of that stuff, and then he's in there a lot. And he is a exactly what you would see out of a college strength guy. He's high energy, you know, and all of that stuff. And he does a great job in there. And then he also coaches our offensive line, so covers a lot of things and wears a lot of hats for us. Our other hire was Philip Farmer. Okay, and if Chris is in charge of curriculum, Philip is the teacher, you know, so he's the guy kind of executing the plan and does works in the weight room with our guys. And you think, well, there's two people. Well, we have 55 kids in there, you know, so it's you need at least two, and you know, a lot of people are putting 4, 5, 6 in there, so. Really excited about Philip and you know what he brings to the table. He will coach our linebackers, and it does a great job with that. And he has kids that are in school. So does Chris. Chris has 2 sons, and Philip has kids that are with us here at Brookstone as well.
Yeah. So. Well, like I said, I know just from hearing stories that they've brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the team.
I think everybody likes those guys.
For sure. So. And what I love too is that the weight room and the lifting and all that is not just exclusively football. Like that all of our coaches are using it and having access to it. And I think that's so important across the board for all our athletes.
Yeah. So I think I learned that lesson when I went to Peach County as an assistant. When I went back. Or when I went there the first time, Coach Walker was the athletic director, and he took each one of his football coaches, and girl athletics had not been a priority at Peach County, and I remember him saying, "Son, your football program cannot sustain itself. It's got to be a part of an overall culture." Right. And he said, if girl sports are over here and they're not taken care of, he said, it's going to be a reflection on football somehow, some way, and somewhere down the road. So he wanted the whole culture to come up. So what he did was he took about half of his football coaches and put us in girls sports. One of them he sent to girls tennis. I got girls track, which I loved. And my first year there, when I walked out there were 4 girls, and I was like, oh, Lord. So we went and recruited. We got about 27 out by the end of the year.
Impressive, yes.
And we were terrible. And I learned about, well, you can't run today because it's raining, you know, or Coach, prom's tomorrow, and you're going to make us run today. So we learned about a lot of things with coaching girls, which was awesome because God blessed me with a daughter a couple of years later. That was, but it's, you know, I hear from those girls as much as I do anybody I've ever coached. It was awesome. But after being in that role for 4 years, we won 3 region championships.
I mean, there you go.
It was awesome, the most rewarding thing. You know, it was great.
That's great.
So, but I feel the same way. To make a long story short, I think we have to unify as an athletic department, because if you have kids that say, well, football does this, basketball does this, baseball does this, then you've got kids that are running all over the place instead of we all at Brookstone we all do this.
Right, exactly.
And, you know, I know there's exceptions to that, and some of that's a little old school, but especially at a school our size where we're sharing a lot, and I think everybody's got to do the same thing. And the place where you can unify that is in the weight room. So we don't have a football-specific workout. There's enough commonalities that we can all share as athletes that we should all be doing, regardless of whether you're playing soccer or whether you're playing basketball or whether you're playing football. There are things that we do that are enough alike that we can work on.
Right. So. Yeah, I think it just has a ripple effect across the whole culture. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
And one thing I love outside of the weight room, if you will, but that just benefits the athletes was the men's mobility, the yoga. I mean, I just thought that was awesome because I think it really does help reduce injuries.
It does. It does. And I think, you know, there's things that are out there. When I was coming through, and it was not quite that old. It was really a little bit before me, but the new thing was the weight room.
Right.
And
right.
then since I've been in coaching, there's been a little dab into nutrition, but there's got to be the what's next. And I hope, for heaven forbid, that it's not NIL,
Right.
but it may be.
Oh gosh, I mean, I think I just got weak even thinking about that. But yes.
but there's got to be what's next,
Right.
and whether it's a sports psychology or whether it's the mobility, and the yoga certainly helps with recovery,
Right.
and it does help reduce injuries and
Right.
those things. There's so many things that are beneficial of it, and I think we need to stay open-minded for what's
Absolutely.
next, or else you look like
Absolutely.
that guy in 1972 saying
Right.
you can't lift because it'll mess up your shot.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So,
Exactly.
we have to continue to grow
Right.
and look and see what's next.
Right. I agree. And my niece is actually, she's a nutrition major, and she's been working with the Georgia football program this summer. And the science behind what they're doing, it is something, it's just, we've always got to be learning and being willing to learn new things. And so I appreciate that mindset.
It's
very
crazy
much
when
so.
you go into those meetings and they have all the different nutritional bars or the gels or whatever, and those kids are popping that all the time, to give their bodies the caloric values
Right.
that they need in
what
order
they
to
need.
perform at the level that everybody's demanding out of
Right,
them.
right. I agree. Going back to women's sports, we have a new sport this fall that I meant to bring up earlier. And so tell us about the new girls flag football team.
Oh yeah, so I think everybody's really excited about that. We did an interest survey back in, I guess, late winter, early spring, and it was amazing the number of girls that were interested in that. And so we decided to give that a go, and Justin Pinterest will head that up for us, and
That's awesome.
really excited. And I think that'll be a ton of fun for our girls.
it
And,
will.
If our success in other female sports around here is any indication, look out.
I know.
I think
it's so true.
I think that we've got some really, really good girl athletes
Yes,
here.
we do.
We do, and so I'm excited to see what they can do out
Yeah,
there.
because our powder puff football games during homecoming, I mean, they are cutthroat. So these girls are ready to play. I would have loved that had that existed in high
That's
school. So
awesome.
that's going to be
That's awesome.
so much fun.
And they've got
So-
it kind of in a spot where it's not really invasive. That's the one thing everybody's like, well, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. And so as an athletic director, you have to balance that with, are we going to be good at this,
Right.
or are we going to dabble in everything?
Right,
You know,
right.
and so you worry about adding a sport, because if you add a sport, is it going to take away from another one?
Right.
Is it going to steal girls from softball, or is it going to steal girls from basketball, or is it going to, because it is a fall sport, but they've
Right.
got it in a small window
Good.
where it hopefully is not invasive on either of the other sports, and it's a spot where they can do all three if they wanted to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
So-
Because, again, when you go back to a school our size,
That's right.
we all got to share our athletes and share our people. So I'm glad that'll work out well.
Yep.
Okay, well, Rance, as we're winding down this interview, I always like to ask our guests some fun questions. So just for get to know you, even though we could have easily done that at the beginning. But so what is one of your favorite movies?
My favorite movie. So I've got a lot of favorite movies, and I love, one of my favorite things is if it rains, is we've got a basement and got a big screen, and we got these couches, and go downstairs with Kennedy and Claudette, and just to be in the same room with them and watch
Right.
movies all day.
I know.
That's so much fun
It's
for
one
me.
of our favorite things, too.
But if I had to say my favorite one, I don't know if everybody knows this. Everybody thinks, oh, he's a football coach and athletic director. He must have been a PE major. And I never taught PE.
Really?
No,
There you go.
I'm a history
Okay.
major.
All right.
And so that kind of leads into my favorite movie, which would probably be Dances with Wolves.
Oh,
it's just,
that's so
and the story's there, but it's more about the scenery.
Yes.
And I
Oh,
think,
gosh,
that's what one of these days I would like to do. I love to travel and just see everything, and I've always been fascinated with that area and how beautiful it is. And I think where he's riding the horse and all of that, that's golly, it's just some beautiful scenery.
Oh, it is just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know my family and I, we always joke, who decided to settle in the South? Who didn't, in our family, didn't want to live out west, out there where it's all so beautiful? But I was just gorgeous. I love that movie too. So, okay, so now switching gears to books. What is either your favorite book or favorite books or the book that had the most impact on you?
Yeah, so... and I'm sure this would be shared by a lot of people, but I would say the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and just that's the I remember this, and this was I'm gonna try not to get emotional because my grandmother was such a big influence in my life. But when I was like 10, 11 years old, she gave me, and I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was not, I think it was called The Book, but it was the Bible written in easy to read language. And I read it at a young age, and I was able to talk to her. I wish that I could still retain as much as I felt like I could when she was still living, and just the influence that she had on me. But I would say certainly the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, what is some of the best advice you've ever received?
That's a great question, and I think one of I used to make a list. Anytime those guys that I worked for would say something that I felt like was profound, or you know, oh, that was really good. And so Coach Bobo had a ton of them, you know, and I had a list that I kept for years and years and years. I wish I still had it. That I called Boboisms. And but I mean, and then it was some that he used that he didn't create, but he used, tough times don't last, but tough people do. Those types of things, you know. But one of the things that I remember him looking at me and saying was, "Son, it doesn't matter," because I'm 5.5 hours away from where I grew up when I went to work for him in Thomasville.
Yeah.
I grew up in the northeast corner, and now I'm working on the Florida line for him. And he looked at me one day and he said, "Son, it doesn't matter where you do it at, as long as you enjoy who you're doing it with." And again, it goes back to the relationships of, work can be so fun and so easy if you enjoy who you're getting up and going to see every day. And I thought that was great advice.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so true. Well, I feel that way about this place, and so I hope you do as well.
Absolutely.
But we love having you a part of the Brookstone family, and leading our athletics. And I just think the best years are ahead of us. And I feel like last year there was so much momentum and so much enthusiasm, and then we're just going to get to build on that this year. So,
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Because if we do, we're 2 tackles away, and we'll get to where
I am.
And make no mistake, that will be our goal.
That will be our goal. Good. I'm ready for a repeat. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for coming by, Rance.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.